What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, as always, Coach Steve. On today's episode, guys, we were going to do the NFC South. We still might. But if you haven't learned, the fantasy world has been kicking over the last week. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today and kind of getting into the funds of all the signing and trades and everything that's gone down. It's way too much. It's actually pushed our content back today. But let me introduce, of course, Coach Gibbs to the show. Coach Gibbs, what's going on, buddy?
Get your bag, man. I just want to get paid like these guys today, but yeah, it's been a frenzy. I totally forgot it was the day of this legal tampering period, and little did we know, like my phone was pretty much halfway dead throughout work. So go NFL, as
Yeah.
always.
And I hope Christian Kirk's agent can hit me up because I'd
Oh,
love to
for
use
sure.
him for my job experience in life. But
Devontae Adams is saying, what
he might have,
franchise?
he might have to get him his numbers. So we'll see how that goes. And of course, guys, Coach John, he's back with us this week. What's going on, Coach John?
What's going on, guys? It's good to be back with the coaches. Always a pleasure. Exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on in the NFL, so I'm excited to break it down with y'all.
Absolutely, guys. And we have a guest on today's show, guys. She's a newbie in the fantasy industry here this week, and she's an honorary coach this week. Coach Emily, what's going on?
What's going on, fellas? It's good to be here. Couldn't be happier to join the fantasy football coaches. I think I messed up your name, but I know who you are, and I've been watching, and I'm impressed by you guys. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Don't worry. Our first ever podcast, I'm pretty sure I messed up saying our name. I think Jibs can remember that. So it's okay. So before we get started with today's show, tell us a little bit about yourself for the audience.
Oh, okay. I will do that. I have been writing now for the last few months for Fantasy Six Pack, Dynasty Nerds, and in the works, hopefully, with Club Fantasy, which is in charge of women of fantasy football. I've been playing fantasy football for like the last 15 years. Last year, I had 69 teams, including 15 dynasty leagues, which are still going on. So I'm pretty insane when it comes to fantasy, and people have come to me asking for sit-start advice, all sorts of stuff. So I just decided to start writing.
That's awesome. I think that's where we kind of all ourselves, I think, began. And I'm jealous I don't have as many teams as you because I really want to have more teams, but I'm trying so hard to resist that urge.
It is an urge.
The pandemic really screwed me up, honestly. I blame the pandemic for me having more than like 6 teams. So it's going to be fun. But we thank you for joining on today's show, and we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk a lot of madness today, guys. So let's kind of right into it because we have a nice hour here to talk about all this crap that's going on. So let's get into it. And of course, guys, my slides, of course, here. So we're going to start with the quick ones here. This is the free agency tags that happened last Monday or Tuesday, I believe it was. And I'm just going to name them off real quick here. We'll start with Mike Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, Chris Godwin, and Devontae Adams all received their tags. So they will be playing for their respective teams this coming season. Probably the biggest takeaway is probably seeing a guy like Dalton Schultz go back, but there's a lot of things that we're going to talk about today that kind of made that really possible for the Cowboys. So we're going to skip the tags because they're not as fun as everything else we're going to get through today. So, Emily, you're going to be first up here. Aaron Rodgers is back with Green Bay now. How do you view Aaron Rodgers moving forward now in like a dynasty league? Is he someone that, in terms of a contender, do you want to have on your team?
I typically don't have a lot of shares of Aaron Rodgers. I see his fantasy value kind of remaining the same because he's going to be in a similar scenario as he was this year in 2021. So as far as his value, or as far as me having him, he's not someone I tried to acquire. He's not my first choice, but he's not a bad choice, as he's always pretty reliable. And I think his MVP record stands for that. But as a Packers fan with a cheese head in the background, I don't know if you can see it, I'm actually not that happy about the signing. So don't get me started, but sorry, I had to bring it up.
I kind of want to know why. Why don't you want Aaron back? Is it the attitude? Is
it the attitude? Yes. Is it his behavior? Yes. Is it the fact that he can't finish or close a game when it matters? Yes. Mostly that. Mostly my middle finger, ironically.
Wow.
As an actual fan, I'm sure it's very difficult for a Hall of Fame quarterback to not make you guys get to the Super Bowl a couple more years often than what he's given you so far. When was the last time the Packers been to the Super Bowl? Like 2010?
Yep, 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's
over
not
10 years ago.
It's not good. You can't have that. But I completely agree with you. I mean, in fantasy, it's like unless you're a true contender, I really wouldn't want to share Aaron Rodgers because you just don't know if he's going to retire next year or not. It's just a lot of if it's ands or buts when it comes to a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's kind of difficult and frustrating to have a guy like that. All right. On to the next one here. Mike Williams signed a 3-year, $60 million extension with the Chargers. Coach John,
I love it.
Mike Williams for the future now.
I love Mike Williams. Listen, I like him as a fantasy asset. I think what you look for in fantasy football is big games, and Mike Williams can give you that. So the fact that he's locked up 3 years, $60 million, he's got plenty of money. He's going to be targeted as a wide receiver 2 with upside in a great offense tied to a great quarterback. I love it. I think everything. I think we saw early on in the season last season Mike Williams' upside. As a top 10 wide receiver. There's no reason why he can't go on that stretch and that run again. I'm not saying he is a top 10 wide receiver, but he can go on a stretch where he can run and put up good numbers for you. So I love him. I think if you bought low on Mike Williams last season, then you're laughing in the bank at this point.
Do you consider him like a sell high candidate because he is a slightly bit older and the injury history? Does that make you want to sell, or are you buying into that success last year?
I'm still hanging on to him. I'm still hanging on, buying into the success of last year. I really am. I think what you're going to get for him is not going to be what you're going to get production-wise back. In terms of a pick that you're going to trade away, it might be a second-round pick, and that, to me, is not enough for Mike Williams. I'd rather have him on my roster.
I would definitely respect it, that's for sure. He's definitely was amazing, especially in the first half of the season. Second half,
not so much.
We'll see if he can kind of get back to that glory that we kind of wanted him for sure. So I definitely don't hate it. Coach Gibbs, I'm not going to give you the Josh Reynolds 2-year extension right now.
I like the Josh Reynolds.
I'll give you that one when it's your turn. We're going to give you a bigger contract here. We're going to do the Cowboys re-sign Michael Gallup for a 5-year, $62 million deal. How do you feel about this signing here? And do you think Gallup really does have that long-term value for us in fantasy now?
I actually like the deal. Like we all been foreshadowing it, like with Cooper signing his mega deal he got 2 years ago and the out that they had, and we saw what happened. They traded him. They tried to cut him too, but with Gallup, he's a good receiver. Like I don't think he's gonna be like an all-star like wide receiver 2 or like a supreme dynasty asset like Justin Jefferson or these guys like those. But I think the value that he can provide is pretty good, and he's got a pretty solid deal. So I think he's a very undervalued asset that you could acquire because CeeDee Lamb's not going to get like everything under the umbrella, and we see the Cowboys have a lot of variety on weapons. And I think Michael Gallup could be a sufficient wide receiver 2 for them, and I think he could be an overall like in that like high end wide receiver 3 discussion moving forward on like a consistent basis.
All right. But are you buying into him now before he really goes off? Or are you trying to sell off what people might want to see in him? Because he has missed games over his career now. He's been an injury-prone kind of guy. But
I'm going to buy. I don't even have any Michael Gallup shares, but I'm willing to buy.
Because I have them all.
Yes,
I do have a lot of Michael Gallup that people have been trying to get off me. I've been holding pat. So I agree with you. I'd like to still buy it if I can. So. All right, let's head back to some of the lower extensions and signings here, Emily. Josh Reynolds, he kind of did pretty well last year with the Lions. He has that connection with Jared Goff. But do you believe his signing really gives him much fantasy value, or you kind of just waiting to see what else they do with the draft and everything?
I'm kind of waiting to see what else they do with the draft. I'm uncertain of his fantasy value right now. He did have a pretty good season last year, but I'm not sure what I have in mind for him for this year. I'm curious to see what plays out, though.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page, to be honest. I want to see who else they bring in because there's this rumors are trying to bring in other people. So we'll see. But if no one comes in there, he'd be definitely interesting as a late round guy. All right. So, Coach John, back to you, my friend. Isaiah McKenzie, he had that one crazy game against Atlanta. He had like 15 receptions in that game. And Cole Beasley could be on his way out. Emmanuel Sanders could be on his way out. I mean, they haven't happened yet, but it's possible. There's a lot of rumors about it. Do you like McKenzie as a possible buy low option, or is it just like not a thing for you?
I mean, he's not a super thing for me. I mean, I like Isaiah McKenzie as the player. 2 years, $8 million is the perfect sort of wide receiver 3 complement to what they have in Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs. So I think he's going to be, that's a better real life signing than it is a fantasy signing. That to me is not moving the needle fantasy wise. He's a free ad in Dynasty. So if he's out there in your waivers, throw him on your bench. He's worth adding, but he's not, I'm not banking going into the next season like, oh, I got Isaiah McKenzie, I'm good. You know, I'm like, it's a bonus. That's a free square. If all of a sudden he turns out to be something, that's a free play.
That is true. I cannot disagree with you on that. All right, Coach Gibbs. Cardinals re-signed Zach Ertz, 3 years, $31 million. How do you feel about Zach Ertz now? He's like 31 years old now. Does he provide still that tight end 1 value for you?
Yeah, he could, but like I still don't want to have like a expiring guy like Zach Ertz on my team, even though you've seen Christian Kirk leave, and there's going to be some targets opening there. So DeAndre Hopkins is going to get up to speed, and we saw what Zach Ertz can do like when relied on in that late stretch of the season last year. So he could be in the tight end 1 discussion, but he's not going to be nowhere near the top 5 at all.
Oh no,
middle end.
Okay. That would be pushing it a little bit for our Lux here for sure.
Yeah, crazy.
I think it's a good time to sell off on him, honestly. If you're, if his tight end market is really hard to find a quality starter for most weeks, if you could sell off on him now based off this extension, it'd probably be a good time to do that because who knows what's going to happen there in Arizona over the next 6 months. So, and then I'm just going to read off these last few ones here, guys. Kirk Cousins signed a 1-year extension with the Vikings. Jacoby Myers got a round 2 tender on him, and Jalen Guyton got re-signed with the Chargers. So there's some little miniature ones here. We're not going to go too much into, but my next slide will have Amari Cooper on it, so we're not going to leave that there. So each one of you guys are going to get one of these here. So Emily, I'll give you the Amari Cooper trades here. Gets traded to Cleveland for 5th and 6th round pick. Basically, Twitter went nuts when they said that's his value right now, Dallas. I appreciate that. But do you like Cooper's value in Cleveland, or is he kind of just falling off radars for you?
Well, I think the 4-time Pro Bowl receiver could end up losing value with his new team. I mean, quarterback Baker Mayfield struggled to have success with Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. The 27-year-old has 5 1,000-yard receiving seasons under his belt already. The Browns will take on Cooper's $20 million cap hit for the 2022 season. The Cowboys will now turn their attention to bringing back Michael Gallup, but this was a no-brainer move for the Browns, but Cooper's value could be headed downhill for sure.
Is it because of the quarterback situation? Because, I mean, he's possibly the number 1 target now on this team here, especially with Landry gone.
It is. It has to do directly with Baker Mayfield.
And I respect that because Baker Mayfield has not really performed, honestly, over the last 2 seasons now.
No.
And the way this offense is running, they don't really run through the wide receivers. Not a single wide receiver over 90 targets over the last 2 seasons. So, yeah. Where would you have him as? He's a wide receiver 3 for you for sure now?
He's for sure a wide receiver 3. Absolutely.
All right. I agree with you on that. Honestly, I don't see him as a wide receiver 2. And I do believe they try to bring somebody else in there. And I think at that point, it just will ruin his overall value.
I think so, too.
Well, we'll see, though. But it was definitely a wild trade to see, especially, sometimes that happens when you have those big contracts. You have to just give them up for pennies. And that's basically what Dallas had to do. So, all right, Coach John, the man is back. Your boy. But he's not back with the Patriots, unfortunately. He comes back to Tampa once again. Tom Brady here. Can Tom Brady perform at a top 5 level still?
Really be short answer is yes. I think because we've seen it, right? Like, and this was the whole thing with Tom retiring, and I've said it from I feel like 2013 on. I feel like I've been saying this is once Tom's play starts diminishing, that's when he will retire. When he physically can't do the job, that's when he'll leave. So it was weird to me that he retired. Performance-wise, he was just as good as he'd ever been. So it was weird that he had retired because I just know him as a competitive guy. So him coming back, can he still be a top 5 guy? Yeah, for sure. I think he certainly can be. What does Tampa Bay do around him? Do they bring back Leonard Fournette? Do they bring back all these pieces? Do they have all these guys around him to still perform at that level? Then yes. But I think physically in a vacuum, Tom Brady is still good enough to perform at a top 5 level. He's just, it's weird, man. It's an anomaly to see, but he's pretty remarkable. So him being back is great for fantasy. I think it's great for the NFL. I think it's great for Tampa Bay. So I'm a biased Patriots fan, but I love seeing him in the league.
Well, I mean, as a Dolphins fan, I try not to be biased, but I don't know if you guys experienced this, but I had a couple people drop him in any of my leagues. I don't know if you guys had anyone drop him in your dynasty leagues, but I got him for basically free in 2 leagues. I don't know if
that's awesome.
I kept him. I did not drop him.
Smart, me too.
I think we should point out though that last year Tom Brady had a career high. I think he had over 5,300 passing yards while tossing 43 touchdowns. And that was the second best mark of his career. So I think there's definitely more in store for Tom Brady.
Yeah. Which is crazy to think at year what? At year 23, 24, whatever he's at, and he's still got more in the tank. Crazy.
It's pretty insane how well he can do at that age there. But he's defying the odds, of course. And I actually saw this fun meme. It was a video, and it was like Tom Brady, he's like crying, and then it was like Gazelle was like, Tom, you have to watch the kids. I'll be gone until Tuesday. Tom, you have to take out the garbage. Tom, you in the garbage out yet? Tom was like, I don't want to live at home anymore.
Is Tampa still calling? Because I could go back.
He's like, yo, can I come back still? Yeah, okay, I'll come back. Not on Twitter. So yeah, that's probably what really happened with Tom at that. But no, I'm sure he just missed the game. And I told people too, like, don't drop him until the season because he'll get that itch. And I'm sure he got that within 2 months after watching all these trades go down in the NFL, and everyone's saying, oh, they're Super Bowl contenders now. Well, like Tom's like, well, I'm a Super Bowl contender on any team, so let me come back here. So we'll see how that works for sure. And then Coach Jibbs, my friend, you get the last with Deshaun Watson here, my friend. Cleared the criminal charges. Great for fantasy, of course. Clearly, I don't know if there's still more things to go on with this. I don't know if a suspension is going to come, whatever it may be, clear, because I'm sure there's something in the background that we haven't really heard much of, but he's meeting with the Saints and the Panthers and now the Seahawks. Where is his value now? Because we talked about him a couple weeks ago, but where is his value now for you in fantasy? Are you buying into him now that he's clear?
I'll buy into him now that his criminal charges are clear. But as we always say in the dynasty world, you should got in one sooner because now his value is hot. Like the guy, like I said months ago, is like a cryptocurrency. Like one day it goes up high, we hear good news, and then he gets bad news. He's back in the crapper, and then like right now he's cleared. So like everything looks optimistic. The teams that are like trying to shoot their shot to get him, the Saints obviously is a great destination. The Panthers so, but they have weapons, and I don't know if they're gonna have to trade him, but I still think that's a good situation. Like the guy threw 4,800 yards last time. The guy played in the NFL, and he's a young talent. So I think I'll have to buy back into him.
Yes, I surely did.
High caliber starting quarterback.
Cryptocurrency is the perfect analogy for Deshaun Watson. He really is. He is, dude. He really is a cryptocurrency. It's like every day it changes.
That is true. Let me get your guys' take also on Deshaun Watson, just so we have people can know different views on Deshaun Watson. I'm like, how do you feel about Watson now? Are you buying back into him now, or you're just staying away until you know more about maybe suspensions and stuff like that?
I have been buying into him over the last couple of weeks. So I definitely can see that. I don't want to get into the criminal charges because that would be a whole podcast and you would never shut me up and I would never be invited back. But what we do know is that in 3 full seasons as the Texans starter, Watson finished QB4, QB5, and QB5 in fantasy scoring. The only QB who can match Watson's combination of passing and rushing ability is Josh Allen. So if Watson plays 17 games, I think we're going to see a substantial rise in his value.
I could not agree more with you, honestly. I traded for him today. I was really happy about that. So, John, what about you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I don't want to talk about Deshaun Watson, the legal aspect of it. I don't want to talk about Deshaun Watson off field, but on field, Deshaun Watson is a game changer. I mean, he's a top 5 quarterback in fantasy. He's what you want in any franchise. And probably in real life football, he's a top 5 quarterback too. So he's a supreme talent. And if you bought into him for fantasy, then you're looking pretty good right now because it looks like he's going to get away without any criminal charges.
Right. And again, there still could be that possibility for a suspension. The NFL might just throw one on him anyway. So keep that in mind. But if he's playing on the field, like everyone says over, he's a top 5 quarterback in Dynasty or in fantasy, or whatever you want to call it. So I know I bought him today. I traded away CD Lamb and the 1-6 for him and Michael Thomas. So I really hope they end up on the Saints together. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, this is the time to really buy into him because I feel like people are still – they're not really seeing the real value of Watson. And once you get him back on the field, that value will never be – it will be just skyrocketing. So this is the time if you want to buy into him now. All right, so on to the big trades of last week, guys. Russell Wilson ends up in Denver. That's a nice jersey. You've seen Russell Wilson in here. It's really nice.
It still looks weird to me. It still looks weird.
I can't wait. I hope they bring these jerseys back for this fall. For at least one game. That would be so nice.
Unbelievable.
Yes. Emily, how do you like this trade here? I'm going to let you go with the Denver side here. Obviously, who benefits the most with Russell Wilson?
Well, for all reasons, to be down on the Seahawks wide receivers is the exact reason to be extremely excited about the Broncos, who finally have a capable signal caller for the first time since Peyton Manning. But with Wilson now in the fold, not only does Cortland Sutton benefit, but Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Albert O, and Javonte Williams they all have a chance to drastically improve from a season ago. And just as well, Russell Wilson gets a bump in his fantasy value with the Broncos. The talent around him isn't much different in terms of top pass catchers as Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy replace DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett as his twin pillars. But the tertiary options have been greatly improved, though, as Tim Patrick is one of the best wide receiver 3s in football. And KJ Hamler can take the top off of any defense. And Albert O is an athletic seam just waiting to bust open. So I think Sutton has a real chance to shine because he showed last season that he could produce when he actually got targets. He averaged, I think, like 13.5 or 13.8 fantasy points per game, which was 17th, and a 27% target share from weeks 2 to 7 during the regular season. He also finished 7th overall in total air yards, right in between Lockett and Metcalf, which I thought was strange and ironic in itself. Wilson has always been an elite downfield passer, 6th highest passer rating on throws of 20-plus air yards last season, which plays heavily into Sutton's strengths. As far as like Jerry Jeudy, who missed the majority of 2021 due to injury, but he still possesses all the talent in the world. He can separate from defenders at will, and he's in the 96th percentile of separation percentage, so he'll surely become one of Wilson's go-to targets from the slot. He'll probably become more like a low-end wide receiver too. But I don't know. I think this is a good thing for the Broncos, and Russell Wilson is going to take full advantage of Judy's route running craftsmanship, and we'll get to see more of Judy's after the catch magic. I also think we'll see upside for Albert O. You'll have to forgive me. I can never pronounce the last name.
That's okay. I can't pronounce anyone.
I can't. So,
Gombawale, I think.
I'm not even going to try, but he last year, he tied for the 3rd highest target rate per route run among tight ends in the NFL last season. Now entrenched as the presumed full-time starter, the uber athletic tight end can probably break out in year 3. So I'm feeling pretty good about this.
You came up with some great numbers there. I'm a big numbers guy, so all those numbers you're talking about, loved every moment of it. So yeah, definitely big upside for Denver right now. John, your side, Seattle.
So it's funny. I actually think Seattle did a good job with their return on investment. Like if you're going to give me what you're trading away for a starter, which is Russell Wilson, which we all understand. You're getting 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a fifth, and Drew Lock, who, say what you want about Drew Lock, but he is a high-end backup. So he could start a couple games for you if you need him. I assume that Seattle's going to go and bring in competition for him. They're not just going to roll with Drew Lock. So, but to replenish the cupboard in a team that was up against the cap and struggling with picks and struggling with expiring contracts, I think they did a good job in terms of turning this ship around pretty quick. So now Seattle might take a year or two being down, but they'll be able to, if they hit on these draft picks and this year and next year, they'll be able to bounce back pretty quick. So it was a smart move by Seattle. The only thing really they had was Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf were the only two pieces that they had that were of value in the market, in the world. And they weren't going to give up DK Metcalf. So might as well give up a quarterback, which gets you the most in return. 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a fifth, plus a Band-Aid starter in Drew Lock. I mean, and Noah Fant, who's again just another piece. I think this was a good trade for Seattle, believe it or not. I think there's a good trade for both sides. I think Denver wins and Seattle wins. This is one of those rare trades that everyone in the NFL did a good job.
Yeah, at least they didn't give up get back almost nothing in return. We've seen teams do that before with star players, so that they got something out of it. So definitely like that there. Coach Gibbs, my friend, I'm going to let you round us off here with the Broncos trade here. What is your favorite part about this trade here? Which side, or which player in particular do you like the most moving forward now?
Oh, for fantasy? Oh, I'm just giving my perspective. I think the Seahawks won this trade single-handedly in like real NFL terms. But for the fantasy side of things, I'm liking Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, okay. Why Russell?
Yeah. Because like he's gonna be going into like M said, like a stud started lineup full of players everywhere, and I think he could kind of have like Peyton Manning-esque season, like when he went to the Broncos, just putting up stellar numbers. So that's my like ideology on it. But for a positional player, I'm gonna go with Judy. I think Russell's gonna unlock that inner dog in him.
I hope so. I mean, I don't have any Judy shares, so I hope not actually. But
I don't either.
It's likely to happen.
So good though.
Yeah,
he's just so good.
If he can stay on the field, we'll see. We'll see how that works. But yeah, guys, like you kind of pretty much said almost everything. I mean, this was a great trade for both sides here. Obviously, Denver is skyrocketing in fantasy now. This is the time to you're not going to buy them cheap anymore. We've been telling you buy Denver's offense, but no one listened. Well, some of you listened at least. So you're paying up for now for Judy and you're paying up for Alberto and Russell Wilson now. Javonte Williams everyone has him as a top 5 back now. So you're paying up for that side. And right now, honestly, you should be buying into Seattle's offense now. Watson can still be going there. We don't know yet. This is the time to buy because I think they're going to be fine. DK Metcalf was fine with Geno Smith for the most part. Tyler Lockett has rumored to be traded at some point this offseason. So this is the time to buy in that Seattle offense as well. So in a much cheaper situation. So. All right, so over to the next spot here. It's Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders. And Coach Gibbs, you have a history with Mr. Carson Wentz here as an Eagles fan. So how do you like this trade? I'm going to let you go first on this one. How do you like this trade with Carson Wentz going to the Commanders?
I think it's good for the Commanders getting a quarterback. Like we know Heineke this is serviceable, but like they need I guess a starting shot in the NFL to go with their pretty stellar defense. So I think Wentz could do what he was doing pretty much there. It's going to be like in Indianapolis. Good defense, just manage a game. Can he get it done? Weaker division, albeit. So hopefully he could do well. Like I'm like circling the matchup on the calendar as soon as it happens. I might have to go see the game itself because I always want to see him get like demolished by the birds. But it's going to be good for Scary Terry. Like I had some doubts going into like what his situation was going to look like in the upcoming years in Dynasty. I guess maybe you could have like a more stabilized Antonio Gibson and they have more chances to score with I guess a better quarterback. I don't think if it's a much crazier upgrade, but I think they could do a little bit more than what they had last year with Wentz at quarterback.
Okay. I like it. I like it a lot there. Emily, over to you. Do you think Terry McLaurin can now jump into that wide receiver one discussion for real now with Carson Wentz, or is it just like a minimal upgrade where it's?
I think it's a minimal upgrade. I think it's similar. I feel for Terry McLaurin because he is like the Allen Robinson. He just can't win with quarterbacks. And honestly, the move for Carson Wentz is a push for his dynasty and redraft value. Wentz is currently my QB 24 in dynasty without factoring rookies into the equation. Last season, Washington deployed a run balance offense with a 45% neutral rushing rate, which was 15th in the league. But as the Colts discovered last season, and the Commanders will soon learn, Wentz should only be asked to manage games at this point. If you can put, I'm sorry, now I'm jumping into the buying and selling. If you can put Wentz on the trade block and move him for a second round pick or rookie pick in Superflex or part of a larger trade, I would be doing so immediately. There's usually one Wentz truther per league, so go out there and find him now.
There probably is in all your leagues. There's got to be at least one guy that still believes in Wentz for sure. But clearly the Colts didn't, John. And, what are your options at quarterback for them now? Who do you like in that offense if you had to pick somebody?
There's nobody on the roster that I think, again, similar to like I said earlier, that they're going to go in and find somebody. They're not going to go in with, like I said, Tampa Bay wasn't going to go in with whoever they had, Kyle Trask as their guy. I knew they were going to make a play, whether it was Tom coming back or somebody. I don't think the Colts are going to make a play with Sam Ehlinger as their guy. They're not going to go into the season as that's their plan. They're going to make a move, whether it's Jimmy G, whether it's somebody else, whether it's Marcus Mariota, whether it's Mitch Trubisky. I think they bring somebody in. If it's a Band-Aid starter, so be it. But they needed to get out of that contract of Carson Wentz. They needed to get out of it. And the fact that they could salvage anything in terms of a trade, in terms of getting out from under that contract, in terms of getting out from under that 1 year sort of experiment, Carson Wentz experiment, if you will, I think they did a good job. I think that, the Colts did the best they could. It really only cost them a third to see if Carson Wentz was what they wanted to be, and he wasn't. So they moved him and recouped a couple picks back. And so now they're back at the problem is they're just kicking tires again, and they've been doing it ever since they lost Andrew Luck. They haven't had a solid quarterback ever since Andrew Luck. So that's the problem with the Colts, is they're in this win now window, and they can't seem to solidify that quarterback position, which is all they're holding off on. So I think they know that. They're going to make a move, whether it's Jimmy G, whether it's somebody else. They're going to bring somebody in and at least fight against Sam Ehlinger. They're not just going to let him have the job. There's no way the Colts go into that next season with that as their plan.
No, that would be absolutely great. Throw me out there. I'll do just as good of a job.
Yeah, there's no way. So I think that I think the Colts did a good job getting out of that Wentz contract and getting out of the dead money, but they need to find something. They need to figure out a plan at quarterback.
Right, exactly. And this is definitely a great time to go buy Michael Pittman. He's got no quarterback. People are scared probably of his future value. He was able to do it with Carson Wentz on uneven play, and he saw flashes with Phillip Rivers at the end of his career. So it can't be much worse than that. So, and he still provided pretty solid numbers on most week basis. Carson Wentz, like you guys all mentioned, like he's just not a fantasy relevant quarterback. But I do like Scary Terry a little bit more now because of Carson Wentz. And I'm not saying Carson Wentz is a great quarterback, but Carson Wentz was a little bit better with his deep ball thrower, accuracy at least. He was 6th in deep ball throws completions last year, while Tyler Heineke was 26th. So there's a big difference in that drop off there for me, kind of a little bit. So I'm hoping that you get more of a consistent high end wide receiver 2 with Terry McLaurin than the boom or bust wide receiver 2 that he gives you most weeks here. But it can't be any worse than what Terry McLaurin's already experienced. So to me personally, this is probably his best quarterback, and it's still a bad quarterback. So it can't be any worse than what we're seeing now. So if people are down on his bad season, it's a good time to buy low on him too still. So. All right, we finally got through last week, guys. That was a lot of freaking news, guys. I'm already exhausted at this point. Well, we had a lot of free agency starting today here. Emily, I'm going to let you start with the first one here. Chase Edmonds signs a 2-year deal with my Miami Dolphins, 2 years, $12.6 million. Does this do anything for your love for Chase Edmonds? I don't know if there's any love there at all, but do you like Chase Edmonds at all moving forward now?
I like Chase Edmonds. He's not, there's no love there, by the way, but yeah, he has upside as in the rushing and passing game. So who knows? He might, having the reins in Miami, he might have some more upside. So I'm excited to see him play.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Hopefully he can provide us with some more stability than a guy like
Miles Gaskin.
Yeah, what he did last year. So
Yeah.
hopefully, and the thing with Edmonds is that he's that passing downs back, but I wouldn't put him as like a full-time workhorse back personally. His most carries of his career was last season, 116, 106, one of the two. And that doesn't provide long-term value for his ability to carry the workload. He's going to be a change of pace guy. So if someone wants to sell high on him now, I think at one of my leagues, someone gave up a first and a second for him. It was a 32-man league, so it wasn't as like crazy as you might sound, but he just doesn't provide you with that value. So sell off if you can, if someone's willing to pay you up a first for him. All right, John. James Conner re-signs with the Cardinals, even though I wrote Cardinal. 3 years, $21 million. Is he RB1 now? Because he was an RB1 last year.
Yeah, he's an RB1 to me. He really is. I think, unless the Cardinals do something crazy in the offseason and in the draft, I think James Conner is just on pace to be another low-end RB1 with huge touchdown upside. I think that's just who he is going to be. We've seen the running back for the Cardinals be valuable because of that touchdown upside, because of the scoring opportunities. James Conner looks to be entrenched right back in that same role. He could easily have double-digit touchdowns in next season, no problem. So I love it. I think the signing, I think it was either going to be him or Chase Edmonds. One of the two is going to get re-signed in in the Cardinals. And so it was James Conner. So I'm in. I like it.
Yes, as do I, obviously. The touchdowns are a big factor to me personally. And we had that injury history, but he's part of an offense that's going to score constantly, and they trust him obviously in the red zone. So definitely a good re-signing for the Cardinals. Coach Jibs, Mitch Trubisky signs a 2-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Did not know what the total is. Does Mitch Trubisky get back on your fantasy radar for Superflex leagues now, with him possibly starting with a pretty good core of players around him?
Yeah, he can get back on the radar, but it's not going to be like a long vested. It's not going to be a long investment at all. I don't think. I think the Steelers will probably still go take a shot in the draft to get themselves a rookie. I just think they got a little fire under their feet. A lot of the quarterbacks are getting off the market quick, and Jimmy G was left, and they're probably going. They're pulling back and forth with the 49ers trying to get him. So if they could get Mitch Trubisky, probably 2 years, 20 mil, 2 years, 15 mil deal. Like, I think that's pretty worthwhile because it's better than what they have there right now. And maybe Trubisky took this year, learned a little bit something up north, and he could bring it back and be a successful, more consistent quarterback. So I do like and I think you think he'll go for I guess he probably won't go for a third rounder today, but like, maybe if you're going to shoot your shot on like a low second round pick, maybe in a Superflex league. I don't know. Like I said,
someone believes in the talent, they might pay up a early second for him. But I wouldn't give up early second for him still. I'd like to see it, but that's the risk I'm not willing to take. But some people might take that risk with Mr. Trubisky because there are some positives. He did have a good season where he made the Pro Bowl one year. It's not like he didn't have a good season. It's just bad coaching, bad management. That could have just put his whole career on the back burner, basically. And maybe with a stability at the Pittsburgh coaching staff, who's been there for over a decade and a half now, maybe that turns him around with a good team around him. And he has that rushing mobility. So maybe there's an opportunity for him, but we'll have to wait to see if he actually wins the job. So yes. Kyle, my bad, buddy. I didn't realize he likes James Conner over Edmonds too. Doesn't change. Like I said last year, that's what he said. So I agree with you. I was on the Conner's train still. All right, Emily. Braxton Berrios re-signs with the Jets. 2 years, $12 million. And, people might not know some of these players here, but Berrios was pretty decent at times last year, where he kind of ended on a decent note. The Jets going to need to throw the ball there. Does he provide any fantasy value for you?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, the 26-year-old is a fan favorite, and he had 4 touchdowns in the final 3 games. But the Jets must decide if he's a full-time receiver or more of a gadget player, return specialist. I think Berrios averaged 5.4 catches and 50.4 yards per game in the 5 games in which he played at least 50% of the offensive snaps. There's I don't know. I'm trying to sit here and convince myself that he does have fantasy relevance and fantasy value to me, but he's just not someone that I'm on board with.
I agree with you. I mean, I like the players in a general sense personally, but I get it. Believe me, I don't know if he's going to. No more Jamison Crowder, so maybe that slot role opens up slightly for him. But I'm kind of with you. It's too risky to tell, especially with the Jets offense.
Yeah.
All right, John, you get the big kicker of the day here. Christian Kirk signs a 4-year, $84 million deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars here. What is his value moving forward now?
Oh, man, what a big deal. First of all, kudos to Christian Kirk and his agent for getting that deal done. I'm proud of you. I'm really proud. I think, look, he is paid like the Jags wide receiver 1. He's going to be treated like the Jags wide receiver 1, and he could see targets in that level, triple digit targets. And so triple digit targets in an offense is always helpful. It's always nice. Now, I don't think the Jaguars offense is going to be this potent, high scoring offense that you're going to love. So the touchdown upside might not be there, but the floor and the reception totals and the yardages will be there for him. So I like Christian Kirk as a nice, safe wide receiver 3 with some upside for touchdowns. But on the average, I'm not totally buying into the Jaguars offense yet, but the money is there and the targets will be there for him to at least have a good floor. So I'm treating him as a wide receiver 3.
Okay. I don't hate it. I think I wrote a little piece up on him today, and I said, yeah, he's a wide receiver 3, but if no one else gets signed there, he has a potential for a wide.
For sure has upside. Sure has massive upside, and we've seen
100 targets. I mean, that's could be a good year for him. So, but we'll see. I don't think the Jags are done spending all their money on everyone possible yet. We'll see.
No,
so we'll see. All right, so yeah, let's see. Will Disley run back to Seattle on a pretty big contract of 3 years, $24 million. It definitely has to put some kind of fear in Noah Fant slightly that why would you sign this man? I know he has a blocking ability, but that just kind of keeps Noah Fant from seeing all the targets in the Titans. Can't talk today. The tight end core there. So we'll see. Mo Alley Cox did re-sign with the Colts on a 3-year deal. That could be interesting if he kind of can see the workload. We'll see about that, but he could be out there on your waivers. I saw some people pick him up today on some of my teams, so keep your eye out for that. Colt McCoy resigns with the Cardinals. Definitely, these are 2 sneaky quarterbacks if you could get on your Superflexes team if you need a quarterback, because we don't know what's going on with Murray. Teddy Bridgewater with Miami, 1-year deal. We know Tua has not been able to stay healthy. If you're looking for buy low depth pieces at the quarterback position, these 2 quarterbacks make some sense for you guys. And then last but not least, Cedric Wilson signs a 3-year, $22 million contract with the Miami Dolphins, Jibs. How do you take Cedric Wilson's value moving forward? You don't like it? You don't like it at all?
Dude, you got he's basically your Albert Wilson there again. I'm sorry.
No, you're not wrong, Jibs. You're not wrong.
You're definitely not wrong. No, not at all.
It doesn't change, but he got a nice contract, so he's gonna be my wide receiver 8 on my team.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. I mean, if McDaniels can use him in the right way, he was a slot guy last year, so we'll see if he can't be used. He's likely on your dynasty team, so let's see if maybe he can get some value. Someone's got to catch balls in that Miami offense, so we'll see. And
he should be a key contributor on the offense from day one, I'm thinking.
Why do you think that?
Just based off of the breakout year that he had last year, and he's a younger receiver, I think there's still something in store for him.
The money is front loaded as well. I will say that too. If you look at the contract, there's a lot of money based on year one, and then it sort of fades off in year 2, year 3. So they assume that he's going to come in and provide at least, starter value for them. So there's a lot of guaranteed money in year one. So I'm kind of with them there, that they are going to go into next year and use them. Now, whether that means much, I don't know, but they certainly do sign him believing that he can contribute right away.
And that's very great takes, guys. I like that. And then last but not least, Evan Ingram signs a 1-year deal with the Jags. So we'll see if Doug Peterson can keep that tight end love that he's had over his entire career as a head coach with Evan Ingram. But Darren Arnold's there. You really just don't know. But does anyone want to take a shot at Evan Ingram?
Mm-mm.
I don't mind.
I
guess.
Enough.
I mean, the 27-year-old who caught 46 of his 75 targets for over 405 yards and 3 touchdowns in 15 games for the Giants. He now figures to be a key target for Jacksonville's young franchise quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. In that context, I think Evan Engram, another last name I have trouble with, appears poised to see an uptick in targets in 2022, probably with a corresponding boost in his fantasy output. A plausible outcome should be to avoid injuries and maintain a higher level of consistency in the process, I would say.
Okay. I like it. Hey, he was a talent his rookie season, so hopefully he can kind of bring that back that we've been missing over the last 4 years. So I don't hate it. But let's get into our main topic of the night. I told you guys it would take us about 40 minutes. But we're only doing 2 of the NFC South teams tonight, guys. We're going to do the Bucs, do the Panthers. So we'll start here. Emily, we'll let you go first. Which would you rather prefer? A possible starter in Keyshawn Vaughn with the Bucs, or if Ronald Jones signs a deal somewhere that he has a potential to be a starter?
Who would I rather have?
Who would you rather have? Yeah.
I would rather have Ronald Jones.
Why Ronald Jones?
I think people forget a couple of things. I think the first being just how young he is. Rojo will go into his 5th NFL season at only 25 years old, and running backs in this age group have the 3rd highest chance at a top 5 finish and the 4th highest chance of being a top 12 finish. The other thing people forget about Ronald Jones, I think, is just how truly good he is. This time around in 2021, Fournette unfortunately took complete command of the backfield over Ronald Jones, and Giovanni Bernard served as the primary pass-catching back. In any case, Jones will most likely have a shot at a starting running back spot somewhere, at least either in Tampa or elsewhere. But there's 0 chance that the Bucs keep Jones, Fournette, and Vaughn all on the roster next season, as the running back room is so full, and the latter are both free agents. I just think that Rojo hit the ground running during his time at USC, totaling over 1,000 scrimmage yards on 160 touches with like 9 touchdowns as an 18-year-old freshman. And while his YPC slowly lowered during his 3-year career at USC, his production only increased. His final season would show that he's capable of being a workhorse as well, having rushed 261 times and making the most out of his pass catching opportunities. Rojo had himself a career year in 2020. He rushed for almost 1,000 yards on 192 attempts with 7 touchdowns. I think he averaged about 5 yards per carry, which was 6th best among all running backs. And he also led the running backs in the NFL with 3 yards after contact per rush per Pro Football Reference. He also finished second. Excuse me, I can't talk today either. He finished second in yards per attempt against 8+ man boxes. I think these are a few examples of why Rojo's efficiency was regarded as elite in 2020. So I just basically think people have forgotten how good Ronald Jones is was for most of the season. Through week 14, he was 4th in rushing yards. He was forced to miss week 15 and 16 due to injury and landing on the COVID-19 list. But before that point, Jones was on pace for over 1,100 rushing yards. And to put that in perspective, only 4 other running backs ended up hitting the mark in 2020. This doesn't even factor the often baffling decision of Bruce Arians to play Leonard Fournette over Jones, despite the latter producing at more efficient numbers. So I'll just say I have a couple other things that come to mind with him. Through 14 games, and I'm still talking about 2020, Rojo finished as a top 24 running back 8 times, with 2 of those finishes in the top 5. He also, in terms of other elite stats, rushing stats, his average yards after contact are in the 93rd percentile. His positive run percentage is in the 91st percentile, and his rushing touchdown percentage is in the 80th percentile, I think. So I think Ronald Jones is a tremendous value once again.
Honestly, I want Ronald Jones everywhere after you talked about him like that. Like, Keyshawn Vaughn, I don't give a shit about you now at this point. You can get on Ronald Jones at this point. So definitely, I love that take. The whole thing, honestly, because I'm a big Ronald Jones believer as well. And I think what you said there is just a perfect way to explain how good he really is if he gets into another opportunity at a starting job. So
yeah, seriously.
Mr. John, we're going to go over to Leonard Fournette for you, my friend, here. And with Leonard Fournette, he may be back with the Bucs now because of Brady, but maybe he's not there. Does he present value if he's not with the Bucs? If he goes somewhere else, do you like him?
It's funny. I don't think he provides as much upside if he goes somewhere other than the Bucs. I don't think he does. But I think he has proven his value. I think he learned how to be a good pro in Tampa Bay. You know, he was a top 5 pick. He was touted as this workhorse back and then kind of fell into the malaise that was the Jaguars and kind of became this middling pro as a running back. Then goes to Tampa, wins a Super Bowl, works with Tom Brady, works with the championship roster. And there is nothing that I can't say about that being an immense, factor that doesn't get valued in. And there's no way to value that in fantasy, but there is something that you learn as a pro when you win a championship, that you know what it takes 17 games out of a season. And I think Lenny learned that. And so any team that signs him, if it is not Tampa Bay, if it's Tampa Bay, he's a top 10 running back to me, in my opinion. He just is. If he goes anywhere else, it's probably more like an RB2. So that's kind of where I'm valuing him. I don't know if other teams will be able to unlock the touchdown upside that is Leonard Fournette the way Tampa Bay was. But in terms of him as a talent in a vacuum, he's super talented, learned how to be a good pro. I think he's great in pass protection, which gets you on the field early and often. And he's probably still got a little bit of, juice left in that tank. So I like Leonard Fournette. I don't love him if he leaves Tampa Bay, but I still like him more than most. I like him more than most running backs out there. I would put him in there with the conversation of David Montgomery. If he ends up on another team, I put him in that same sort of ballpark where you're like a mid-level RB2.
What if he stays with the Bucs? How high?
Oh, I have him as a low-end RB1.
What if he goes to Atlanta or Kansas City?
Kansas City, I'll be honest, the thrill of Kansas City sounds sexy, but for a running back, it's not as sexy as you think, right? Atlanta, yep, he's going to get a ton of work and his volume is going to be there, but where running backs make a difference is in touchdowns, and I don't think the touchdowns will be there if he's in Atlanta. That's where running back really, we watched LeGarrette Blount make a living off of just touchdowns. And so that's really what you want sometimes out of your running backs. And that's who I think Leonard Fournette kind of is. He's one of those guys where if he has double-digit touchdowns, he's going to be great for fantasy. If he's 5-6 touchdowns because he's playing for Atlanta and they're not in a lot of red zone opportunities, then it's probably not going to be that fun.
All right. I love it. I love the conversation there on that. Yeah, he definitely has grown as a player, and hopefully this will get him a contract somewhere, or he'll be back with the Bucs, which I'm sure many fantasy owners will like because he's been so successful over his time there. Coach Gibbs, my friend, Chris Godwin, man, what a fortunate situation, him tearing his ACL. But where do you have him overall in Dynasty? Is he still someone that can be an elite producer?
Oh, yeah, he could be an elite producer for your Dynasty team. I think he's still somewhat young. I think he's going to be 26 or going into 27 this year, either or. And that's like in the prime part of his career. He's still tied to Tom Brady after his retirement coming out of retirement. And dude, like the guy before that was wide receiver 2 playing 14 games. Like he's not even playing the full allotment of the whole season, and he's still putting up crazy numbers. So I think even without Tom Brady, I think he could probably be I guess a low end wide receiver 2, like throughout. But for 2022, 2023, I think he's even 2024. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver to have on your team because he's always going to get you close to 100 catches, I believe, and he's going to be well and over 1,000 yards, especially if Tom Brady's throwing to him.
That is true, and we don't know how long Tom Brady will play for, and it seems at this point he will never retire. So if Chris Godwin that long-term deal with the Bucs, he's definitely a wide receiver that can be really good. And the one thing that to note is that hopefully they don't bring in another wide receiver to match up with Godwin and Mike Evans, because when AB was there and playing, Chris Godwin kind of fell into that low-end wide receiver 2, and then when no AB on the field, he was a beast. So we'll see if that hopefully does not happen to him. But he is a wide receiver you probably want to have because ACL tear or not, he should be fine and being back to an elite productive talent for your dynasty team. All right, over to the last team here real quick. And we're going to let 2 of you guys go at this one here. Emily, I'll let you go first on this one. Christian McCaffrey. Are you buying or selling off McCaffrey right now?
I am happy to report that I have 0 shares of Christian McCaffrey, and I will keep it that way. I always avoid him. He will again not be on my fantasy team. I think one of the most alarming factors in CMC's recent injury history is how many different issues there have been. Generally, when a player gets hurt or misses games or whatever over a short period of time, it's usually one specific area that continues to give them trouble. But this hasn't been the case for Christian McCaffrey. It's been an ankle, hamstring, shoulder, and thigh injuries, I think. And the lifespan of running backs in the NFL is short, but hopefully this isn't the case here. It would be extreme if his body had already broken down after just 3 full seasons of NFL service. I think he'll try to bounce back in the 2022 NFL season if he can avoid further injuries. But I'd rather have Swift or Javonte Williams and a first-round pick. He's a massive offensive weapon. I'll give him that. He's a runner, receiver, and returner, a player with this type of pedigree. But I don't know, over his first 3 seasons, he totaled over, I think, 4,000 yards, 42 touchdowns, and over 220 receptions. He was dominating the game in a way that we had not seen in recent time. But then the last 2 years happened. 2020 season-ending injury in week 4, and 2021 was very unkind to McCaffrey as well. But he'll be entering his age 26 season following 2 consecutive seasons where he has played a total of 10 games. So I am a no buy. If I had him, I'd try to sell him to the next overpaying fantasy manager. And the worst thing to do would be to sell low.
Yes, 100% agree on that. Definitely don't want to sell low. I think at this point you're waiting until the season to a guy like McCaffrey for sure if you're going to sell him. So no, definitely agree with you. Coach Gibbs, my friend, how do you feel about McCaffrey? Are you trying to buy or are you trying to sell him off right now?
With him, I have no shares. I don't think I'll ever get a share because I'm probably not joining another league, and I probably won't get a high draft pick either. But I think he's worth the sell. I think you could get an immense haul for him. You probably, all you Javonte Williams lovers, you could probably get him plus a pick plus whatever you want for him. So he's a great maybe. I'm saying maybe. But you could change Christian McCaffrey. I know, I'm not saying it's a supreme rush to get him off your team, but if you had him on your dynasty team, what has he done for you in 2 years too? So it's a wise gambit, but if I did have him, I'd probably be selling him right now because I just want to get out of it, get ahead while I can, and you never know. He might not even be a Panther come a week or so with Watson. He could be a Houston Texan. All I know. Man, I don't want that. He'll get 10 carries and
even worse.
Get everyone else good. You know what I'm saying? So
That would be an absolute disaster if that went down. An absolute disaster for those who own CMC. But hopefully CMC owners don't have to have that nightmare be limited. So we'll see. And then last but not least of this Panthers team here that's actually worth relevance right now, John, DJ Moore, can he reach another level?
Yes. I'm going to say yes, he can. I'm going to say yes, he can if there is a legitimate quarterback upgrade. If they get a legitimate quarterback upgrade, he can reach the next level. I think what we've seen out of DJ Moore is his floor. I think he's talented enough to just be that, 100 reception, 1,000-yard guy. Where you will see the upside is in touchdowns. And if that offense starts to really click and starts to become a high-powered offense with an upgrade at quarterback, he could start getting into that 8, 9, 10-digit touchdown. Not 10-digit, yeah, right. 8, 9, 10 total touchdowns. And so that would put him over the top into that like middling wide receiver 1, low end wide receiver 1 number, which would upgrade him into what he is now, which is sort of this middling low wide receiver 2 up to that middling low wide receiver 1. And so I want to see what they do at wide receiver. At quarterback to upgrade that wide receiver core. But I love DJ Moore as a talent. I think he is supremely talented, and he is the perfect sort of, to me, he's the perfect buy low right now. I look for guys who perform, have talent, and this situation could change on a dime. Those are the guys that I look at in Dynasty.
Yeah, I think.
How big of a jump do you think you will need? Like, I know he's been rocking with Kyle Allen, Cam Newton, and Teddy Bridgewater for like these 3 years. But
if
like,
they go get, even if they get Jimmy Garoppolo, who I think is probably middling, right? Like, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is middle. We watched Jimmy Garoppolo move an offense well enough that Deebo Samuel existed, Brandon Ayuk existed, Kittle existed. I think that it helps. He has done so much with so little that it's like, you've done this with Kyle Allen and Cam Newton. Like, give me someone, give me anyone that's in the middle of the pack, and I'd be excited. The fact that he's finished wide receiver 19 last season is crazy, because that was the quietest top 20 wide receiver finish I think I've ever heard. The quietest top 20, finished as a top 20 wide receiver, and no one says a peep about him. So in my opinion, I think, yes, that what we're seeing, that wide receiver 19 to 24 range, is his floor. And then all of a sudden he gets a little quarterback upgrade. He gets a little kiss from that. And yeah, a little judge, a little something. And all of a sudden he becomes this wide receiver 15, 14, and with some upside. And you're going to really like it. I love DJ Moore. I loved him in Maryland. I love him now. It's crazy to think. But he is that, take a slant to the house kind of dog. Like, he can play. He can really play. So I love him. I love DJ Moore.
Yeah, and he should definitely be a buy low option currently for a lot of you guys. I mean, if he had 8 touchdowns, you're talking about like wide receiver 9.
Yep.
Like, that's how good he is. He just hasn't been able to score. He's only scored 4 touchdowns at home in his entire career.
That's insane.
That's insane. Like,
that's insane. That's
your home and your fans, and he hasn't done it.
And that's the problem with fantasy managers. Fantasy managers get it, the points. Sometimes we get too tied up with points, and we let the points dictate where we want to rank guys. And yes, the points have not been there for DJ Moore, but if you watch the games and you watch his routes and you watch the performance, he is just up there with some of the best wide receivers in the league. The touchdowns will come. It'll come. It'll click. As that offense grows, touchdowns will start to follow.
100% agree there on that, for sure. But we're going to wrap things up tonight, guys. That was a lot of talk we went through tonight. I'm still mind-bogged how much news we had to get through today.
So much news.
Let's talk about these 2 divisional teams here. But Emily, you were a fantastic guest.
Thank you.
A lot of great insight. Definitely a lot of fun having you on the show today.
I'd love to come back and finish discussing the NFC South.
If you're around next week, next Monday.
Sure, you want to talk about the rest of the NFC South kind of?
It's not great, but
I just want to be with you guys, and I love the fantasy coaches football, so I'm all about it.
You have an open invitation for next Monday if you'd like to come back.
Thank you. I would love to.
We did not have another guest set up yet, so if you'd like to come back and finish this division with us, you're more than welcome to.
I will do that.
All right. I will let you know the details on that. So if there's anything you want to say before we let you go, floor is yours.
No, I just wanted to thank you guys. It's been a lot of fun. And if anybody is interested in any of my writing, they can follow me on Dynasty Nerds and they can follow me on Fantasy Six Pack. But follow me on Twitter. I'm always producing new content, new NFL polls, all that sort of stuff. It's all NFL. It's all fantasy football if you follow me.
All right. So give her a follow, guys. We would really appreciate it. Coach John, you have anything you want to say before we let you go too?
I got nothing. Follow me at FTLS_JBats. Coach John here. I'm excited to be with you guys again on another beautiful Monday. So
it's great to have you back on full time with us, man.
I love
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun season.
And Coach, a good off season.
Oh yeah, Coach Gibbs, my friend, what you got for us?
Fix your clocks if you haven't done so.
I gotta fix it in my car. I gotta do.
Me too.
Get your bag.
Get your bag, yeah.
Get your JC Jackson bag right now. That's what you need to go get.
$5 million for sure.
Get that JC Jackson bag.
But we thank you guys all for listening. As of always, you can follow our website or go to our website at www.thefantasycoaches.com. We got a lot of things going up there. We got weekly articles popping out now. We got some rankings. We got both our podcasts are up there now, both us and the Dynasty coaches. So check us all out here. We're here to help you guys out. And if you want to follow our podcast, you can do that over at Coaches Fantasy. Until then, guys, the four of us might be all back next week. We'll be back talking more of the NFC South, and we'll be obviously talking about all the other crazy free agent signings that are happening. So until then, guys, have a great one.